My friend calls me and says, hey, man, look, they bought this house. They had a plumber come out, and he says their entire sewer system needs to be replaced. $60,000 for a plumbing bill.
Ugh.
I know. I see you're shaking.
I mean,
cringing.
That's when light fixtures start disappearing and you can't have any money left over to make it look good.
Yeah. There's no money for carpet. There's no money for this. There's no money for that. But imagine too, they bought this house that was already fixed up. Now they're being told, if you want the plumbing to work, $60,000. Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. So how did you officially get introduced to the trades?
To be honest, I always knew I wanted to be an interior designer from a very young age. And it kind of started by painting the walls in my room. My mom gave me a little freedom. And I'm not saying it was good at that time by any means, but I started painting. I started seeing, transformations of things, and that I really enjoyed watching the transformations of interior spaces. With that, I became very interested in homes, the way they were built. My grandpa, he was a home inspector, and I used to go work with him in the summertime. I got $50 per home inspection, and I would check all the outlets. I would do all the little things that he probably didn't want to do. My whole family's been involved in the trades. My brother's a contractor. My other brother's a home inspector. My mom's in real estate. It's just always been about houses for us.
And so what color did you paint your bedroom wall?
I don't even want to tell you
what
color.
I want to hear. No, I want to hear.
Have you seen Pepto-Bismol pink? like the nastiest Pepto pink with sherbet orange stripes. It seemed like a great idea at the time.
Have you tried that lately in any of your
Lately, no.
projects?
I've definitely gone more neutral lately.
Okay, just kind of checking.
Yeah.
Okay, so your grandfather was a home inspector and you used to go to work with him.
Mm-hmm.
And you smiled when you said that.
I did. It's a really happy memory for me. My grandpa's awesome. I love him to death. And he taught me a lot about the business of the trades. I mean, think about it. When you go do a home inspection, you're looking at the electrical, you're looking at the plumbing, you're looking at the roof, HVAC, all these things. And so that to me just showed me how many different trades go into building one house. And so now, as I've grown up and I have my own company, I hire my own subcontractors. These are my friends now. I'm friends with the plumber, I'm friends with the electrician, and I've just grown to love the trades so much because they're great people.
Your husband called your plumber and said, hey, Kenzie's going to see this Roger Wakefield guy. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
And he had.
Well, we didn't want our plumber to get his feelings hurt when he saw that I was talking to a different plumber, because you know how that is.
No, I know. We're territorial.
And so we told him, we said, hey, this is just Roger. No big deal. And that's
how it is. And look, we met, what, year and a half ago, something like that?
Yeah, year and a half ago playing Topgolf.
You're one heck of an athlete. You really are.
Yeah. Just so everyone knows, I kicked Roger's butt at Topgolf.
And it's a shame that you went to, what is it, a Division 2A, 3A school? I
can't even tell you. Texas Tech?
Yeah, that's way down there. I'm a Longhorn fan, so, it is what it is.
Good for you.
Yeah, just a fan. Never went. See, I didn't go to college. Did you need to go to college?
So that's the thing. So this is a common thing to talk about in the interior design world. There's a difference, ideally, between interior decorating and interior design. And the difference is typically education. It's kind of like decorating something you're born with. You can't necessarily teach good taste. You can try and you can practice and you can do all these things. Neither one is wrong. But when you go to college or wherever and get educated, you're learning more about the building codes and the drafting and the architecture behind the interior spaces. Now, school is school. Who are we kidding? We learn way more after school than anywhere else.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Me being in high school with my grandpa, I learned 100 times more than when I was in college, paying all that money, doing all the time, whatever. I pretty much went to Tech for the football games, to be honest.
You live in Austin. You could have just drove over to
I had to
Darrell
get
K.
away.
Royal Memorial Stadium.
I needed to put a little space in between me and my family at that time.
I can get that.
So anyway, Yes, loved college, loved what it taught me, but I learned so much more in the field, as you know. That's where mistakes happen. That's where you fix things. That's where you meet the people, learn from the people that are actually out there doing the work.
Going back to your grandfather, being out with him, what kind of things did you learn there that you think still follow you to this day?
I think about little things he says all the time because I'm at houses and I'm with clients all the time. And being kind of a young girl, I'm usually trying to show people, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And so I think about things my grandpa said, like concrete does two things. It turns gray and it cracks. And just little things like that pop up when I see a crack in a slab or something like that. Or I know certain codes that most little girls don't know, like drain pans and PSIs and all these things that pop through my mind, and I can usually use them to impress people.
And knowing code is a good thing because there's so many people out there today. You worked on a project recently and the general contractor says, hey, I'm just going to do the plumbing.
Yeah.
And you looked at me as soon as you said it and you're like, but he really can't.
He can't.
I know.
And plumbing's the hardest one. I'm sorry. I've watched all this go down.
You got to be the smartest
hard.
person. That's all it is. You got to be the, and I say that jokingly. The neat thing though is that when you were young, you knew what you wanted to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a guy. Of course, I want to be a professional football player. Played football in the first grade, number 12. My name's Roger, and I was quarterback. Well, Roger Staubach, most popular guy in the world back then.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. But once I walked onto a job site, and it was a laborer, and I got a job in the middle of the summers, going out to job sites and just cleaning, picking up, and it was a goof-off job. But we did a lot to try to keep the buildings clean and materials nice, neat, and stacked where the guys came in.
Such a big deal.
It really is. And then later, I quit school, in the middle of my junior year, quit high school, got a job plumbing, and fell in love with it. And I may have had to lie about my age or something. Back then, it wasn't quite like it is now. Yeah. There was no such thing as the internet. But I remember loving what I did and just showing up at that job site every day. It's like, man, I am part of something. Getting to learn from my grandfather would have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
He which mine was a chef, but he also built things. He was an idea guy. He'd invent things. And I mean, I've even got some of this stuff at home he invented. I'm like thinking, why hasn't anybody done anything with this?
That's so cool.
It is. Was he just a home inspector? Did he do other things? Was he in the trades before that?
He's one of those guys with a life that you could just listen to for days. Like Vietnam, all those things, the military. He did build homes, I believe, in Colorado at one point. Totally different, but then moved to Texas and started his home inspection company. He lived close to us, so I was able to go and hang out with him a lot more than I would have been.
Now, back then, which you know more about Trek and everything than I do, were home inspections required back then, or was it an option?
As far as I know, it's always been an option, but it's one that in real estate and all that, you're kind of crazy not to get one.
Absolutely.
But honestly, now in my new business, flipping homes, I use it to my advantage that I don't really need one because I know what all he looked for. So I can walk into a house, look it over for 20, 30 minutes, and I kind of know, like, this thing's got problems or this thing doesn't. Or it's worth the risk to not get a home inspection. And when you tell a seller, someone trying to buy their home and get out quick, that you're not going to get a home inspection, they are so comforted.
Oh, yeah, they love you.
They're so excited and they're just ready to sell. So working with him has led me to really good situations now.
And we're going to come back to that because I want to ask you a question about an inspection. But for right now, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Oh, hey, I'm Mckinsey Seibold. I'm an interior designer for the most part. I do dabble in general contracting and just the overall experience of refreshing your home. I even do offices too. I mean, I've worked in commercial, I've worked in residential, and overall, my passion is making a space better. And it's as simple as that. And if that's function, cool. If it's making it prettier, great. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be all about looks. I really strive just to make the room function better for the client.
I met you because of something cool that you're working on that
Yeah, we may be doing a really exciting project right now.
But you can't really tell me a lot about it.
Nope.
Oh, I'm going to pull teeth here in a
No,
minute.
my lips are sealed. I can't talk about it yet. You're just going to have to call me next year.
Okay, so let's go back to you don't do inspections. When you are working with a buyer, do you recommend a sewer water test? Because one thing, even your grandfather, and if you call him when we're done, when you walk into a house, you can't tell me if the sewer line underneath it is any good.
Right.
You can't tell me if the water line is leaking. And these don't always lead to foundation problems, but they can. But foundation problems, most people, you walked into my new offices yesterday and you're like, Roger, this is the leaning house at Six Flags or something.
Didn't even need a marble.
You bet. Didn't even need a marble, golf ball, nothing at all. And then when I explained to you, it used to be a garage. It was a carport. It's like, okay, makes sense. Everything that you're telling me that you look at, you can see the cracked concrete. Get that. Yeah, it's supposed to do that. We know it's going to. Yeah. We bury cast iron pipes underground. Iron rusts. Cast iron rusts. A homeowner who buys a house, and I'll tell you where this came from, where I really got started in this. A couple had moved from California to Dallas, and I had done plumbing at a friend of theirs' houses. And I guess they got to know each other later. But my friend calls me and says, hey, man, look, they bought this house. They had a plumber come out, and he says their entire sewer system needs to be replaced. $60,000 for a plumbing bill.
Ugh.
I know. I see you're shaking.
I mean,
cringing.
That's when light fixtures start disappearing and you can't have any money left over to make it look good.
Yeah. There's no money for carpet. There's no money for this. There's no money for that. But imagine, too, they bought this house that was already fixed up. Now they're being told, if you want the plumbing to work, $60,000. That's why I asked you when you said, I don't do inspections, and I know you've got a plumber. Have you ever talked to him, or has he ever talked to you about a sewer water test, which is really a very simple thing to do if you know how to argue
Roger
with
Wakefield.
Exactly. But I mean, I talk about it all the time because to me, how would you like to be that couple that just spent $300,000 moving from California?
No.
Oh, by the way, Mckinsey, write me a check for $60,000 and I'll make everything work.
And when you said, oh, they want their plumbing to work, like, duh. That's why they bought a roof over their head and plumbing to work.
Exactly.
Like, these are the bare minimum things we're looking for in a house.
You bet. We're looking for shelter. We're looking for protection. We're looking for comfort.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. No.
And go back to what you said a while ago. It's not always about beauty. Sometimes it's just function.
It's function. And that's what's sad is so many people put lipstick on a pig. Like you said, the house was already updated. I'm sure the pictures look great online.
Oh, amazing.
And then they're moving.
So there ought to be a show like that. They saw these pictures online. They bought a house.
There should be a show like that.
They walked in and they're like, oh my God, what just happened?
You know what they should? They should start working on a show like that.
That could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of a sewer water test?
No, honestly.
You need to watch more of my videos.
Honestly, I haven't. And I will watch more of your videos because now I'm going to call you and be like, hey, I just talked a lot of smack. I bought a house. Can you please come look at it?
Yeah. But and think about this.
Yeah.
You're walking in looking, saying, you know what, we're going to change that light fixture. I don't care that the fan doesn't work.
Right.
We're putting in a new oven to remodel the kitchen. I don't care that doesn't work. But we're not testing the plumbing. The fan's a couple $100, $300. The oven for an amazing one's $2,000 or $3,000. Too amazing.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And honestly, you're right. Plumbing is not the first thing I think of when I walk into a house at all. And usually plumbing just drives me insane. And I spend a lot of my design trying to cover up pipes.
And we talked about that last night.
Things like that. Like, that's kind of part of my job is to figure out how to hide pipes. Because to move pipes, as you know, is really expensive.
Can be very expensive.
Or it can be. So sometimes I disagree. But like to a client, plumbing isn't the sexy thing to spend money on.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. And
until you can't go take a couple shower.
Yeah.
Because the water will not go down the drain.
Yeah, so there's no sexy.
It just became unsexy right there.
It became so unsexy.
But then when you fix it, plumbing is sexy.
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
just saying.
Okay, I see where you're going.
So, you know, and ask your grandfather about that. Just
I will. I'm excited to go call him after
have you ever
this.
thought about this? Because now Trek has manipulated the plumbing systems in Texas. A home inspector can now run a camera down a sewer.
Yes.
But the camera doesn't tell you everything.
No.
You really need a good plumber. And
well, how much water can you really see on a camera?
Well, and it's not the water. Remember, you're running it down the waistline, but you're talking about a black waistline with a sewer camera, which is not HD. So, some of them are really, really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, a crack could look like a scrape. That's to me one of the most important inspections. And that's why whenever you said, look, I don't do inspections, I'm like, ooh.
Don't say that.
Because I tell every real estate agent I meet, if you don't do, or at least recommend, you don't need a home inspector. I got this. I know what I'm looking at. I know what problems you're going to have. I know what you're going to have. But I don't do the sewer and water. I mean, think about it. You want me to change out 50 feet of pipe under your house? That means tunneling. It's a lot of work.
That is so much work.
Expensive.
So expensive.
50 feet of pipe's about $35,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Okay. How much could you spend on remodeling just knowing, hey, I spent $500 or $600 knowing I don't have to worry about that. Everything's good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So much.
It's a great insurance policy.
And in real estate, absolutely always recommend it to the client.
Yeah. If you're a real estate agent and you don't, and I know a lot of people say, like, look, I don't want them to worry about stuff like that.
It's so sad.
They may not buy the house if there's a problem. It's like, okay. But if there is a problem, normally the seller, hey, we just found out about this. Apparently it just happened. Emergency situation. Call the insurance company. Is it covered? Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
They can normally help get.
They have more power to fix it.
You bet.
And more money power to fix it. Absolutely.
Yes. So anyway, it's why it's a good idea. And if they're like, we're not fixing it, now the buyer can say, okay, it's going to cost $30,000. We need to come down
Take
$30,000.
that off.
You bet.
Now that the seller knows about it,
they have to tell
they
everybody.
have to disclose.
That is why when I do an inspection, I always ask for the seller real estate agent's name, the seller and email address, the homeowner's name and email address, because when I send that report out, I send it to everybody. That way the seller's agent can say, look, I never saw the report, so I don't know that that's true or not.
Yes, you did. I got the internet.
I take great care of my people. Yes.
Good.
Yes. So your dad.
So my dad's been in home inspection too. He actually was in medical sales. To be honest, he really wanted me to go into medical sales at one point, which
meant he'd pay for your college education.
It just wasn't my passion. But anyway, so my dad is now a home inspector as well. I mean, he's following in the footsteps of everybody. So it's all around.
Now, does your dad work for your brother?
He works for the company that my grandpa started.
Okay, cool.
And then my brother actually has his own
home inspection
company. I mean, it's just proved to be a really good revenue stream.
People need it every day, and now you've got to be licensed through TRAC.
So we also, it seems like all the women in the family are real estate agents, and the men are home inspectors.
Now, are you an agent too?
I do actually have my real estate license. Good. Lucky for me, I married another real estate agent. It wasn't my passion. Interior design has always been my passion, as I told you. So getting out of all that was a blessing for me to be able to go back and do what I love. But to be a good home inspector, you are selling to real estate agents.
Oh, yeah.
To be recommended for the inspection. Luckily, in our little community, I grew up in Georgetown, Texas. We know all the real estate agents, and we are related to most of the home inspectors.
Good for you. Did you ever go to work with your dad?
I haven't. He's gotten into it in the past 5 to 10 years. And so since then, I've been doing my own thing. I started my own business. I flip houses with my husband. I flip houses for other people. I do interior design consultations. I do all things interior design, basically. And sometimes that bleeds into general contracting, which is my favorite. Like, my favorite thing to do is to pick out the floors, all the permanent fixtures, because those are scary. They're permanent.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can switch them out, but that's expensive. So the quartz countertops, the backsplash, all those things. Yes, furniture is fun, but it's temporary. I like to be involved on the really big decisions.
Now, what do you call permanent?
So if you flipped a house upside down, what doesn't fall to the top? So
all plumbing's permanent fixtures.
That's permanent.
HVAC.
That, to me, that's
electrical,
permanent.
All that.
It's where your big investment's going.
Except for the plumbing underneath the house that you're really not worried about.
I mean, well, I can't see it. So, you're right, though. Like, that is definitely something to think about.
It's a big deal.
Plumbing's expensive. Like, they always have the highest bills.
HVAC can be if you're talking replacement instead of repair. So
right.
But even HVAC, think about this. You got to climb in the attic. It's hot.
Yeah.
You got a furnace or in a closet or something. It's tight.
Yeah. And we're in Texas.
So it's really hot.
It's so hot.
But to repair plumbing under a slab, especially, you've got a tunnel underneath, or you got a jackhammer hole in the middle of the floor and go down and do different things. So accessibility becomes part of the biggest problem.
Right.
Houses in Austin, most of them are on slab. Are there still pier and beam houses? I know that there's some in the older areas of Austin.
Yeah, it's rare on pier and beam. I know home inspectors hate pier and beam because they got to get down under there and look at everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I could see how access points is way easier for a plumber on a house that's built up rather than digging through a slab. I had a house built in the 80s the other day, and we wanted to move the gas range over to a different area. And like, just what that cost and what that entails just shocked me. You can't just move. From a plumber? Yeah. You can't just move things.
Well, gas is one of those things you got to hard pipe it. You got to get it to from where it is to where it's going.
Yeah.
And let me see, you probably wanted it out on an island or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wanted to know my options, I guess, but I sit here and I draw and I sketch and I make these adorable new floor plans. Like, they're so cute. They're what everybody wants. But when you start digging into the house that was built in the 80s, when everything was so chopped up and pipes were slab, yes, 2-story. So pipes are coming from top bathrooms
up, down,
to the bottom bathrooms. All these pipes everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all. Can we hide some of these? We're about to have a real industrial look.
And you can do that. You can hide pipes.
Yeah.
So to move a gas range like that, oven, you've got a tunnel under the house because you have to move that gas, or you have to have a drop, a column, something where you can hide the pipe in.
Right. Which nobody wants columns anymore. They want big open kitchens, open to their living room.
Maybe we need to invent Wi-Fi gas. See, me and you're onto something here.
I'm so we're going to be so rich.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
I can't wait.
I've done Wi-Fi water one day. It blew people's mind.
Awesome.
So you grew up with 2 brothers.
Yes.
That both ended up doing very well in construction.
Yes.
Do you have to work harder? Do you have to work smarter?
I have to always be a step ahead of them. As we grow up, they still look at me as the younger sister, the one you can poke and punch and whatever.
Did that make you tough growing up?
Totally.
My sister was the girl in school. You did not want to mess with her.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we had a student commons area where they had one school building over here, another one here, and there was this building that you cut through, and there was hangout places and whatever. And I remember walking through there one day, and I played football. She walks by me, and I'm like, "Hey, sis." And all of a sudden, I hear this B word, and then this pop. And I turn back around, and all of a sudden, I jump over, and I'm in the middle of it, and my sister's on top of this girl, and I'm holding everybody back. This guy, somebody grabs me by the shoulder. I'm like, "Will you stop?" And I reach up. It's one of the coaches. I'm like, "Coach, I'm trying to get them to stop." And so, anyway,
I haven't punched people yet, but I was always.
Oh, wait, you said yet?
Well, I'm still young.
Okay.
But no, I was scared to bring boyfriends around them. I've had an ex or 2 with black eyes, kind of a thing. But it's good. It's good to be protected and strong. And
that means they love you.
I know that they're in my corner.
You bet.
So that's good. It's great to grow up like that.
Now, your brothers are both athletic also.
They are. My oldest brother, Chase, is like ridiculously good at everything. Like to the point where you don't like him for it. He was a tennis pro on accident, rock climbing. Like when I was in gymnastics, he could do way more tricks than I could, and he never went to class, So he's just one of those.
And he's tall. He's not like just a little short guy that you're like.
No. He's tall. He'll get on a trampoline and do a full back twisty thing, and then he'll go out and do the same thing on a wakeboard. We did go to the emergency room a couple times growing up.
A few times.
For sure. But my other brother is awesome. He's more of a softie, and he's actually lives in London right now and is doing an acting school and getting really into all this acting stuff, which I think is so cool because college kind of wasn't for him.
Wasn't for me either.
I know it wasn't.
To know.
I know it wasn't for you. But now that to see him find something he's so passionate about is awesome. Like it just lights me up to see him light up at these things. So
And he came into town a little while back.
He did.
What'd y'all work on together?
Well, I can't tell you, but it's going to be really cool. And you may get to see it later on.
You got a brother in the septic systems.
Yes. How gross is that?
It's plumbing.
I mean, I guess someone has to do the job. I'm just really glad it's not me.
Have you ever gone to work with him?
Kind of. I've watched him work before. I stayed back. It smells really bad. Like when you open that septic thing.
Oh, yeah. It's called poop.
It's cool. They use all those, you'd be really into it, I'm sure, mirrors and probes and all these things to pump septic systems and inspect them, make sure there's no cracks, that kind of thing. I stay far away. They've got big trucks and big cool bulldozers and stuff, but that's about all I care to know.
Interior design.
Yes.
What about it just excites you? I mean, I love the fact that you've got to understand all the trades. Gas lines. You've got to understand, look, I can't move the stove over here if it's a gas stove because it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Or it's going to be very expensive because we had that conversation last night. Anything in plumbing can be done. Mm-hmm. Anything. You can put a gas line wherever you want it.
But it's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you.
But it can still happen.
You can do anything with a lot of money.
Absolutely.
I can dream all day long about the way this house is going to be laid out and whatnot, but you have to know where pipes can be hidden, where electrical can go. Because like you said, people are going to live here.
And they buy it to live a long time.
They do.
They're not thinking, I'm going to live here a couple of years and then find another one.
No, buying a home is the biggest investment most people make in their whole lives. And I think it should be respected. And that's why you do get home inspections and things like that. But to do my job well, I have to know all the trades. And I strive to learn. I know it's always changing. Codes are always changing. So I strive to stay on top of those things. Trends are changing, when it comes to the pretty stuff, all that, I try to stay on top of all that too. But the function ultimately is more important. And I'm happy to admit that. No one lives in a model home. People walk into these model homes all the time and they're like, oh, I want this just the way it is. I'm like, you have kids. Like, it's not going to look like this. We need flooring that's
Where's
durable.
Their crap going to go?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we need to pick fixtures and furniture and all these things that are durable for your family. It's not just about looks. Am I the only one with a rich aunt that has a dining room where no one's allowed to go touch anything? Like, I remember going over there for holidays or whatever, and everything's made of glass and silk and all these things. I'm like, oh my God, I can't play in here.
Right.
So I try to avoid that type of design. I think it's cool, really cool to see in magazines, stuff like that. But I like to focus on the real function part of design rather than it just looking good. Now, do my rooms typically look good? Hell yeah, they do. All that stuff is, in my mind, temporary. Those are things you change out. Today I like blue, tomorrow I might like orange. So I put that in the pillows or the blankets or something that's less expensive to switch out.
You ought to try Peptol Pink and Sherbert Orange together.
Stop, that's mean.
I'm just saying.
The way I like to design is keeping the permanent fixtures pretty neutral to where we can work through them over 10 plus years and then change out the temporary into what do you like now? What makes you happy now? And that's something else too that I get passionate about. I get a lot of clients that come to me with a picture from a magazine or Pinterest or wherever, and they say, I want my house to look like that. I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm glad you like that. But does that really work for your family?
We can't put 20-foot ceilings in your 8-foot ceiling house.
Exactly. Like, we can scrape popcorn ceilings, but we can't move this freaking pipe over this way, things like that. It's a process to walk. It's kind of like a therapy session in a way when somebody buys a house and I have to tell them what we can and cannot do.
I used to be a cosmetologist, and that would be people coming in with a picture and you look at it and you think, I'm a beautician, not a magician. It ain't never going to happen.
Yeah.
So how do you take on clients? Because I'm sure there's some clients, every client is not yours.
Right.
You cannot work with everybody who wants an interior designer.
I can't. No, I can't.
How do you pick the people you work with, and how does that conversation start?
As I get older and grow in business, I'm learning how to stop saying yes to everything.
So Brendan Burchard, who I've studied under and learned from, he says, I say no to everything. In the beginning, no to everything. And then if somebody comes back and asks again, now I can think about it. How do I benefit them and how did they benefit me? How does this work together? But he says, even family members say, hey, can you come to this event? He's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I look at. I'm learning to look at as my business grows because I am a yes girl. all through and through. I'm just,
You want to help everybody.
I want to help everyone. I'm a positive person. I love challenges. Like, come on, let's do it. But in a business, and when my time is becoming more valuable, I have to learn how to say no to certain things that don't benefit me and then won't ultimately benefit the client. I talk to them. I get to know the family. I get to know what their wants and needs are and see if it's realistic that they're willing to take it where I would take it. Some people just want a shopping buddy, and that's okay. Shopping's really intimidating whenever you're looking to spend all this money on furniture and things like that. And that's fine. And then some people want to change their whole house. They want every single surface changed. Honestly, those are my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Those are my total favorite, and I will pick them over the other any day. It really just depends. I feel like if we click and they say, oh, I like your design, I love to show them photos of what I've done in the past. It's kind of just getting to know the client and seeing if we are a good fit.
What is the most money somebody spent with you just to remodel a house?
Probably about $120,000. Gosh, that used to go a lot farther.
I was going to say, that's not as high as I was thinking.
It's like it used to could buy a whole house for that. You know what's funny about this one that I'm thinking about? It was a brand new home. Like they bought it brand new, already built. You would think that it's done. You would think that it's done. But the way builders are building right now, it's so boring. There's no personality to the homes.
Cookie cutter. Everything's the same.
Exactly. Cookie cutter. Great way to say it. So they hired me to give this home personality, basically.
Inside and outside?
Yeah.
I love that.
Inside and outside. I mean, yeah, I'm an interior designer, but I get into flowers and gardening and stuff. I mean, that's color. That's making things more lively, warm, making it more inviting. My last client said, hey, I want my home to feel like a hug when you walk in. I'm like,
I like that.
Let's do it.
I know. I like that.
Let's do it. And sure enough, when we did the big walk-in, they start crying because they're like, oh, it's what I wanted. I wanted a hug when you walk in. I mean, that is the most rewarding part of my job right there.
Are you able to keep them out of the house long enough to do
I try.
Everything?
I try.
It doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work. You know, you get drive-bys. I love, like the perfect client, I would tell, hey, go on vacation. Mm-hmm. Just give me your keys, go on vacation. You'll come back to a beautiful home. I'd want to get to know them first, right, just to make sure I'm going in the right direction.
Right.
But that would be like the perfect client. Just stay out, trust me, let's do this.
And your work's phenomenal. Do you get most of your referrals through word of mouth, friends, or do you advertise? How do you grow a business when you're an interior designer?
So I use social media, but also I live in the community I grew up in, which helps. I was walking my dog the other day and a lady stopped her car, slammed on her brakes and said, Mackenzie, can you come look at my house, please? I was like, well, I'm walking my dog right now, but maybe in a couple days. You can bring your dog.
We'll let it loose in the backyard. It'll be fine.
Right.
Whole new territory.
So that made me really happy because she saw, I just stay top of mind on social media with people that I already know. And I've built quite a network just having a family in the community that we live in and just growing up there. I know almost everybody. I like for them to think interior design, think I need help, and then call Mckinsey. And whether it goes anywhere or not, cool. I just want to talk about it, talk about the possibilities.
What would you recommend to a young person that is coming out of high school right now, maybe coming out of college? They're not sure what they want to do. I hate when people tell kids coming out of high school, look, go to college, figure out what you want to be.
Yeah.
My thing is, look, get a job in plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Get paid for the next couple of years instead of spending money for the next couple of years.
Yes.
And then figure out what you want to be.
Yes.
And at least then you're making income. You're not just building up student debt.
Absolutely. On the ground, boots on the ground experience is so much better. I would tell any kid, what do you want to be? If they said interior designer, okay, go get a job at a upholstery shop. Go work at a furniture store. Go to Sherwin-Williams. I once applied to the Home Depot paint counter just because I was interested in learning about that stuff. How paint's mixed. Big whoop. Like, there's so many little things that you could learn that will benefit you greatly later on once you decide what you want to do. Just go work in whatever industry that is a passion for you. And maybe you find out it's not anymore. Maybe you're like, oh, that sucked. I don't want to do that the rest of my life.
Exactly.
So at least go try all the things. But if you knew, hey, I love interior design. I want to grow up and be an interior designer. Okay, cool. You know how many ways you can apply that passion? You can do airports, hospitals, schools, homes. I mean, you can do so many things, and you just kind of have to dial in where your passion is.
I like that because as an interior designer, I guess I've always just thought homes.
Yes.
Which most people probably do.
Most people do.
That's where we hear of interior designers the most. And my thought is, when I tell people about getting into plumbing, there's service, there's new construction, there's residential, there's commercial, there's industrial, there's union, there's non-union. There's so many different career choices and avenues and routes and vehicles to get you where you want to go. What do you prefer? Do you prefer residential? You said you've done commercial too.
I have. I have a crazy passion for commercial. I've found that my lifestyle is better with residential these days, but there was a time in my life where I worked at architecture firms, and I went into that 9 to 5, and I was working on hospitals and schools and things like that. Ultimately, that wasn't for me because ultimately I don't like being told what to do.
You're unemployable.
I'm really unemployed. I like to work for myself.
Exactly. No, I get it.
And
that's what I tell people about me. Look, I am completely unemployable.
Yeah.
Nobody'd ever hire me.
That's I'm going to start using that. But the passion was still there for function from working on all these commercial projects, hospitals. I mean, so much goes into the layout of a hospital, as you can imagine. So much goes into how bleachable everything is there, how safe it all is. And same thing with schools, teaching kids in a room. The way it's set up is a totally different learning environment in one room than another. All these things kind of sparked my passion for function in making a room work well. And I think that's what sets me apart from other residential interior designers is that's my number one priority, is to make it work well. Number 2 and 3, they're going to come. We're going to make it pretty. But I think I got all that from my experience in commercial design.
So out of all the trades you have to work with, which do you enjoy the most?
To be honest, like I know you want me to say plumber.
Oh, no. I think plumbing would be not the best. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's not easy just to do.
It's not. It's probably the most frustrating trade to work with, to be honest. My favorite trade is carpentry. It's not something that I'm comfortable getting behind a saw and creating all these things, but I have a great carpenter that I trust a lot. And I can draw up a design. I can go insanely crazy with all this math and cutting and angles and whatever, and he can create it. And I think that's so cool. It's just something I respect so much because I can't do it.
So other than plumbing, which is the worst to work with?
I've had trouble with electricians lately because of high ceilings. They'll walk into a house with a 20, 21-foot ceiling and then walk right back out sometimes. They just get scared. And I don't blame them, but also I'm like, well, how did that ceiling fan get there in the first place? Yeah. Somebody had to put it up there.
Most of them don't have ladders to get that high. But they don't have the equipment or just like, there's nothing I can do.
You're so right.
And then they've either got to rent electronic equipment.
Scaffold or things
Scaffold
like that.
Or scissor lift or one-man scissor lift or anything like that.
And that's something I have to think about too is, okay, are these floors capable of handling what you're going to bring in to get up there? I did have one and he brought in a scaffold and I just wanted to see what it was like up there, how scary it was. So I climbed. Well, I got almost all the way up and my legs were shaking so bad. And I was like, you know what?
Shaking because you were scared of heights or shaking because it's a lot of climbing to get up there?
Well, it just didn't feel sturdy to me. Like,
oh yeah. They wobble a lot.
It's not a water tower. Like, it's a shaky little thing that somebody put together that probably isn't qualified to put it together. And my legs were shaking. I was like, you know what? I'm sorry for being rude to you. I understand why.
Right back down.
I'm going to get back down too. I do like impressing all the tradesmen that I hire by working and showing them that I'm willing to work too. And yes, I don't have like their trade. I can't go install a sink myself, but I like to be on site supervising and then also getting things done. Like you said, cleaning the construction thing. That's huge when a client comes home and there's not dust everywhere. Putting on door handles, cabinet pulls, all these little finishing touches, I'm there, right there with them working. And so I think I get a lot of respect from my trade guys because of that. Yeah,
it's neat to work with people. As an interior designer, male, female really doesn't matter. I mean, if you're in here helping, because there's a lot of people, it's like, okay, here's how you do it. There it is. Y'all go do it.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, wait a minute. What about this? What about this? What about this? Or when you're there, it's like, oh, you know what I like that? You know what? Let's change this. What if we flip this? What if we do this?
Yes.
And stuff like that's really neat.
Yeah. A lot of cool new things get created because you're there talking through it, working through it. I have to be there and be like, hey, you didn't caulk this. It's not going to look smooth when you spray it with paint. Like, I have to be there saying those things, nitpicking those things for the quality to come out amazing at the end.
What's the biggest trend right now? And of course, I'm thinking kitchens and bathrooms because I'm a plumber. What is the biggest trend right now that if somebody listening wanted to do something, and I'm not going to say easy, but something just change the look of their bathroom, their kitchen, whatever it is?
My biggest love right now, bathroom and kitchen wise, is tile, because that's how you can bring so much personality in with tile, and super durable, wipe it off, whatever. I'm using tile on stair risers, even in the living room, just because you don't get those scuff marks. Kids running up and down the stairs, you can just wipe it off. But bathrooms and kitchens, I like to go into something like a Floor and Decor or something and just look at all the tile as if I'm in like an art gallery. Because it's kind of overwhelming at first when you're like, I got to pick out this backsplash, this for my shower, this for the shower walls, this for the shower floor. So I like to go into these stores and act like I don't have to pick out anything. I'm just there for fun. I just want to see what catches my eye.
You bet.
And so I walk through these things and I wait, and it always happens till something just grabs me and I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. And then I do everything around that one piece. Now we're picking tile that complements the one that grabbed me, because I know that I can't walk out of the store without that tile at that point. It's my favorite. So that's kind of what I'm into right now, is different tile motifs, what goes with what. I've learned I really like the small penny tiles on shower floors because it feels good on your feet. It kind of gives you a little foot massage when you're showering. And so it's just small details like that I'm like, I want to pass that along to my clients so they can enjoy this too. It's the difference between a decision and a great decision.
Why should people hire interior designers?
People get so overwhelmed, and I get it. I get overwhelmed too. When I go in, I have to do this, I got to do this. There's so many different things to think about. But it's just like anything. Hire someone that's done it 100+ times, someone that has already failed, someone that's learned from their mistakes already, and someone that knows how to not make those mistakes again.
How much do you enjoy seeing a smile on people's faces when you're done?
It's huge. It's like the best part. And you're usually so stressed, like the day before you get to show them. Like, that's stressful. I get nervous. I still get nervous because, like, what if they don't like it? But then when you walk in and you see them smile so big and you can just tell, like, wow, this is my home? Like, this isn't where I used to live. It's so rewarding. It takes all that stress away. It makes it so worth it in the end.
So if you could go back to the first day that Mckinsey walked out of her house to go to her first interior design job.
Oh, I remember this.
What would you tell her?
I would tell her to do exactly what you're about to do. Stay confident and true to yourself, and it's all going to happen. My first job, I remember it when you said that. I remember it to this day. I'd always had trouble charging people for my services because to me, it's something I love. Why would someone pay me to do this, But I have to remember how valuable I am and that's what I want my career to be. And a career is there to help you make a living. I remember being very insecure about asking people for money for my services. I went and I met with these people. We clicked. They wanted to hire me right on the spot. They said, what's it take to get you started? And I don't know who came out of me, but I said, it'll be $13,000 for me to start for you. And they said, great. Wrote me a check. Yep. Handed it over. I was like freaking out inside. I was shaking. I was so excited. I got in my car. I started crying. I called my mom and I was like, Mom, someone just paid me $13,000 to do this and I'm going to do it. And she's like, go girl, you go. So no, that was huge for me just to build that confidence of, okay, you can get paid for this.
How long ago was that?
About eight-ish years ago when I did my own real thing, my business, my jam.
Now that you know your value, what would you charge people today to do that same thing?
my accountant would tell you that was
Not
really
enough.
dumb.
Yeah. No, I get it. I do.
No, I remember I started an LLC, did all the business things, and she goes, you're not charging enough. So now I do, my kind of structure right now is 20% of the whole job for project management kind of things, and then $100 an hour for design work if we're out shopping, if we're doing that kind of thing. I still try to stay less than most people because I'm in my hustling years. Like, I'm here to put my head down and build this thing.
20% is good. The of big value you bring is your knowledge. And when you're out shopping with people, you're saving them money.
Yes.
And you're steering them in the right direction. Plumbers charge $400 or $500 an hour. Why wouldn't you charge that?
Y'all sure do.
Just asking.
Y'all sure do.
Don't you think you're worth as much as they are?
I'm about to raise my prices.
I get 15%.
Of mine?
Well, whatever you raise yourself, because you weren't going to do it.
Oh, gosh. Okay, fine. We'll do it once.
This has been so much fun.
This is awesome, Roger.
Where can everybody find you on all your social media platforms? And what's that deal your brother came to town to work with you on, something like that?
None of your business. You can find me on Instagram. Refresh by Mckinsey is my company's name. So Refresh by Mckinsey on Instagram.
You got a lot of cool stuff there, things you've done.
Yeah, I try to keep it up to date, kind of like a portfolio of projects I'm working on. I do have to be a little secretive right now until something big happens, but I promise you, y'all will be the first to know the second I can talk about it.
Guys, stay here. I will make sure you find out about it as soon as I do. Thank you.
Thank you.